Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the payoff.
The streak isn't over. This is Tom Healy, and as always, I am joined by my co-host. For how long, I don't know, because for those of you that listened to last week's episode know, decided he was going to shit all over Hogan and Andre at WrestleMania 3. What did you even give the ranking?
That was a 6.5.
A 6.5.
To your 10.
A 6.5 to my 10, and to Dave Meltzer's -4 stars.
Yep.
Let me tell you something. That is fucking fantastic. And there is nothing that could possibly beat Hogan and... Well, you know what? We might just be covering something better. Dude, I am really pumped to cover this one. But first, how in the hell are you doing, my friend?
I will get over you being mean to me, but that's okay. And so, it'll be all right. So, this is exciting, though. Again, on the road to WrestleMania, you and I both very excited about this one.
Well, the payoff is on the road to WrestleMania, and you and I are literally soon on the road to WrestleMania.
Payoff time.
I'm getting pretty excited, dude.
We're getting closer and closer.
Pretty excited.
The road's getting a lot shorter. Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, if you're going to go to WrestleMania, you go with an expert WrestleMania weekend navigator.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so...
I may not be a Brock Lesnar guy, but, you know...
Well, and the card's coming together, but who knows what we'll get. So, but either way, of course, we are on the road to WrestleMania. We want you to stay on the road with us, so make sure to subscribe to the show. Give us those 5 stars, Apple Podcasts. Spread the word. We need you guys. That's what we look forward to. More and more people talking about the podcast and the payoff, and that's how we get that word out. So, of course, that's social media, at Payoff Pod. There's at Payoff Jeff, at Payoff Tom. We are out there. We are communicating. We are looking to do more and more, so expect to see more. We are on the road. It's just going to keep mixing it up. And, send us those suggestions. You guys can tell for, long-time listeners, like, we try to incorporate stuff. We do things a little differently every week. And so this week, too, is another week we're going to do things a little bit different as well.
So because this match is long and the entrances are long and the vignette before the match is long, what we decided to do is we're going to hit play right now. And as they do the build and the entrances, we're going to talk about the build. We're obviously going to watch the match live, and then after the match, we'll give our payoff scores. So for those of you who want to follow along, we're going to hit play here in just a second. But again, it's 1:48 on the WWE Network, WrestleMania 25. And Jeff, I'll just say, I'm looking at the WWE Network play button here. This was right in the middle of the damn show.
It is.
Which is hard to believe. I'd hate to be the poor sons of bitches that had to follow this thing.
We're at about 45% or so. Yeah.
So, I feel bad for whoever followed this. We'll get into that in a second. But again, if you want to watch it with us, 1:48:01, and we're going to talk build. So I'm going to hit play in 3, 2, 1. Ready? 3, 2, 1, play. All right, so Taker cutting his throat. HBK looking into the camera with his good eye. Dude, I'm pumped to cover this one, my friend.
Yeah, you want to start? How come this was one you wanted to talk about?
So, it's great. I was there. I loved it. Fantastic, man. But here's the deal, dude. The build to this was pretty damn good, right? They're showing him... with the Sweet Chin music on JBL to end that feud. That was the one they involved his wife.
Yeah, and that's the name. And
this was towards the end of his comeback run because he didn't wrestle much his final year. He kind of sat on the shelf after this match for a while.
Yeah, and that was one of those. Just the build, especially, it's kind of interesting how it played.
Talk about
ahead
it.
of time, and so. So I'll jump right into it. And so, this one, what you had was actually No Way Out, which was February of 2009. as we kind of said a little bit, Michaels beat JBL. It was a stipulation where if JBL had won, he would have been the owner of Michaels' name and likeness, which, I mean, that's a wrestling story for you. So Michaels got the better of him, though, so you didn't have to worry about that. But this played out over Raw over the next couple of weeks in order to get us to this point. What you had was Michaels challenged JBL again. And so, but what happened, though, is the winner would advance to take on the Undertaker at WrestleMania. So these two had been feuding. And in an effort to really end the streak. That's what Michaels wanted to do. Keep moving forward. Michaels did beat JBL, but it was actually another competitor, someone who we've talked about, a little bit in previous episodes. Was actually Vladimir Kozlov actually wanted to challenge the Undertaker as well. And so again, you get Michaels winning more matches in the lead up to this, beating Kozlov, and getting his shot against The Undertaker. Of course, as WWE, they tend to do this where, the two competitors, the two of them were actually paired in a tag team match against Kozlov and JBL in the weeks leading up to, really the week before, which is just nutty. I don't get why that's a thing, but, they'll come together, they'll work together, but that's what we get. And so, but kind of messing with each other a little bit, as you just saw if you were watching along with us, HBK giving the Sweet Chin music, a super kick to Undertaker as well when we were about 2-3 weeks out from the match. So just interesting. So, and then we get the Mania match. And so kind of got right into it. And so the build, though, really tight. A lot of matches that kind of got us there. A lot of good storytelling.
Dude, look at this on Raw when...
Yeah,
HBK comes out mimicking the Undertaker every move, but he's wearing white.
In the white, yeah.
I mean, the heaven and hell thing, the build to this was fantastic. He's in a graveyard right there, 16-1 written on the tombstone.
There really was a lot of good storytelling because, and we'll talk about it, but this is one where it was somewhat believable.
Yeah. Because they were playing up the whole WrestleMania, too. Like, these are the two best WrestleMania competitors of all time.
Right. And so we had that. And so Michael's getting away at this point. So, yeah, but that was one because, career versus streak. It was, these guys weren't past their prime. Maybe some people might disagree, but, they were still in good wrestling.
Hell no, they weren't past their prime, dude.
So I say, I don't disagree. I said it. And so... I'm sure somebody will say that, I'm full of shit. And so, but I think that these two guys were still able to go, still able to be out there, which is why we got the match that we did.
I'm going to call you full of shit if you give this another 6.5 payoff score, I'll tell you that.
Well, we'll see what happens, man. As I said, we don't share our scores, so nobody knows, so that's okay. So, I hadn't really said, my kind of reasons for wanting to do this.
Yeah.
I think that we'll talk about it a little bit more during the match, but I think this is one of it's not a common stipulation, which I appreciate. And so, we see a lot of matches that don't make a ton of sense over the years of why, or most recently, I think, they did the Hell in a Cell matches. It's you don't need Hell in a Cell.
You're right. This makes perfect sense. Why these guys would want to go against each other. Why it would be at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
The heaven and hell thing. So this is. I'm going to play the sound for a second here. This is Shawn Michaels in all white, kind of dressed like a white version of the Undertaker, coming down in this massive podium structure. He must have been 50 feet in the air to start this thing, at least.
It's still coming down on a crane.
Yeah, it's still coming down slowly. They've got this big dramatic music playing.
And this is why we did this episode a little different, was because
we couldn't cut this part out.
The entrances are important. It tells, and you can tell Michael's music a little different right now, kind of how he's coming to the ring. He's got his arms just outstretched. Here's the pyro. We love our pyro. And kind of doing that. And so yeah, because you have to include. While the build, was multi-week, but...
Boom! And then his music hits. He's still got the white outfit on, though. I mean, dude, come on. Such a good entrance. Such a good entrance.
So the vignette ahead of this one was pretty good, and so now, of course, you got Michaels, and you could hear the pop as he was coming out. and kind of just how everybody was reacting to him. Interesting stage setup too. I just want to say that too. I did not watch this one in the kind of lead up to it. I just did my research, and so I don't know when the last time you watched it, but I'm going in blind. It's very tall.
Oh, I watch this match every 2 weeks.
I'm sure you do. Actually, he's not lying. And so, like, the very tall stage, it feels like it's double like what you would normally see on something. Yep. And so, a bunch more pyro. Where was this one again?
Houston. I was there, 50-yard line. We were kind of at the top of the 100 section. So, if you were at a football game, 50-yard line at the very top of, like, the 100s. Pretty good seats.
So, the setup is very cool. I'm digging what they're doing with that because it'll definitely be interesting, especially this year with Tampa and having the boat there, and so how they play off that will be fun. But this is one of those where I think it's just a good utilization of where they were and kind of using the space and stuff like that. So,
yeah, awesome entrance. So this one was in Houston, WrestleMania 25, April 5th, 2009, 72,000. Interestingly enough, this new stadium, this Reliant, was, I wouldn't even say across the parking lot. I mean, it was like next door to the Houston Astrodome, which is where WrestleMania 17 obviously took place. So it was kind of cool. We walked past the Astrodome to get into this arena. The stadium. It doesn't look that big because it's one of those where you kind of go underground. I don't know. It was a little bit. It was just a weird, kind of a weird stadium, but it was cool. Really interesting show. Now, the card on this one was interesting. All right. And you know, some of these WrestleManias we've just been blowing through, but I'm going to take a few minutes and just go through the entire card. The pre-match, which I believe was on the, whatever the pregame show at that time was called, was Carlito and Primo, the Colognes. They defeated Morrison and Miz in a Lumberjack Tag Team Championship match that unified the two brands' titles. What year was this, Jeff? This was 2009. And in 2020, we'll probably be getting a Morrison and Miz appearance together at WrestleMania. So
11 years later,
pretty interesting how that happens. Now, CM Punk won the Money in the Bank ladder match. Santino Marella wins Miss WrestleMania, so kind of a comedy thing. Jericho defeated Snuka, Steamboat, and Piper, accompanied to the ring by Ric Flair. I don't know if you remember that. That was the one where it was supposed to be Jericho and Mickey Rourke. Then they were going to have the four guys. This was the year after Flair retired, so he didn't want to come back in the ring, but they were trying to get him involved in this one. It was kind of weird. But what came of that was Ricky Steamboat looked pretty damn good, and he hadn't been in the ring for like 10 years or maybe even more. He would go on the following month to have a match against Chris Jericho at Backlash, I think it was, that was awesome. The next match, Extreme Rules match, Matt Hardy defeating Jeff Hardy. I remember that match being so disappointing because you're thinking with those two in the ring, they're going to kill it, right? Especially Extreme Rules, as we're watching just a ridiculous Undertaker entrance. I mean, they're all great. And being there live and feeling the fire and, you know, it may feel like these entrances take 5 minutes, but when you're there, you love every damn second of it. It's just like, holy shit. I mean, there's just like an aura that comes across the arena for those that haven't seen it live or it's been a while. So yeah, this Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy match just kind of sucked. It was disappointing. 20-second match where Mysterio beats JBL for the IC title. At the time, that was JBL's last match. But it was really well done. It was kind of cool just to see him get squashed. And there was the Nana Nana goodbye chant because we knew it was JBL's last match. Really good. Then you had this match, which obviously we're covering and going to talk about. And then the two world title matches. There was a three-way with Cena, Big Show, and Edge. It wasn't terrible, but wasn't great. And then Triple H beating Randy Orton. And that was that match. I had alluded to it, I think, a few weeks ago. That was the one where, okay, they have to follow this classic, okay? And, you know, Triple H and Orton, they're kind of, neither of them, I would say, is like a great in-ring worker per se. And they had this stupid stipulation where if Triple H was counted out or DQ'd, he'd lose the world title. So Triple H has alluded to it. He's like, look, we had no chance of following this match. oh, by the way, give me a stipulation where the guy that came into my house attacked me, I think he had like RKO'd Stephanie, all this dastardly shit that he had done to Triple H, and then Triple H couldn't be the aggressor in the match because he would have gotten in trouble. So it was a horrible stipulation. They had no chance of following it anyways. So that's the card, man. So not a great WrestleMania. The bones were there for it to be, but just didn't happen. Also, this was the Hall of Fame ceremony that Steve Austin went into. So as big of a name introduction as you can get. That actually took place, before the main event. And Steve Austin came out in an ATV. Place went nuts, beers, the whole deal. Look, something about his pops in Texas, man. Coming out for this one, he got a major pop. And then when he came out in Dallas, and that was the one where it was him, Shawn, and Mick Foley, the place went absolutely bananas.
Yeah. And this is one, and we're at the point, the Undertaker's in the ring now. He's raised the lights. They're both kind of...
Well, that's... He motions. I mean, he doesn't actually have the power to do that.
Wait, what?
Damn it. Sorry.
Oh, my God. You're ruining it, Tom. And so... It's him. That's why he has to do it. So, kind of taking his hat off now. And so, this is what we touched on a little bit. We were talking about, their entrances here. Who stands out for you? Who has some of the better WWE entrances? Not music, but like just their coming to the ring and kind of who sticks out to you?
I mean, gosh, these two are a good place to start, right? I mean, Taker, Shawn Michaels, Ultimate Warrior.
I think for me, Jericho, definitely.
He's had some great ones.
In the jacket, I think that's hard to overlook, just how good that is. More recently, I've always enjoyed Nakamura and how he comes out to the ring with the violin and stuff.
Before he was a jobber, I thought Bobby Roode's was great.
Bobby Roode's, he still, I think, that was...
But when they were doing the full thing in NXT, same with Nakamura, his was pretty awesome.
And that was, there's so much that gets diluted when they get up to the main card, which kind of sucks. And I get some of it's the plan. You can do things on NXT. So right out of here, Michaels with the chops, the two of them kind of going at each other.
And just the way that, the contrast of the black and the white, the contrast of the bigger and smaller, Shawn's trying to be faster, Taker's trying to kick the shit out of him, the facial reactions. I mean, it's just all absolutely spot on. Now, keep in mind, I believe this was 17th. Taker match. You're going into it there's no way he's going to lose. But as the match would go on, as we'll see, you start to wonder. I'd say at this point, it wasn't. There was a stretch where it was pretty predictable he was going to win. Obviously, he did lose. This was that stretch where you're he's probably going to win, but he's not definitely going to win. Some of those the matches, you're there's no chance he loses this year, right? The Punk one, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is just one of those, there's the DX chop throwing it at the Undertaker. And so, and of course, playing a little bit here, Michael's
playing possum, fake the knee injury, and boom, he's on top of him.
This was too, previous episode, he's got the looser pants at this point. You and I had talked in a preview because trying to hide some of the knee braces and things he may have on under that. And so,
correct. Yeah, I always wondered why he had those looser pants. I mean, I didn't hate him, but I didn't like him as much as the traditional. But yeah, he said he had big-ass knee braces on both knees. And sometimes if you look closely, now that I heard that, I can see it.
So there's a lot of it. So you've got, and kind of some of the talking points that you and I have through this one is, you've seen Undertaker, I mean, all these guys, he's been the Undertaker for as long as he could be the Undertaker. Michaels has reinvented himself a little bit, Well,
I'd argue Taker has too, though. He did the American Badass.
Yeah, that's right. That's fair. And so, but, Michaels, you had the Rockers, you had, the Heartbreak Kid, you had, D-Generation X, you had all these different things. I'll say kind of what Michaels now is kind of settled in very nicely into this NXT kind of coaching role and what he's doing there. What, in your opinion, is next for The Undertaker?
Well, it's interesting because now, and I think this was on the Steve Austin podcast, you're always, as a fan, you're always I wonder if Taker's going to wrestle this year. And, a lot of this stuff, a lot of these years, it's been pretty last minute. I think we sometimes assume that all these things are determined well in advance, all these storylines are well planned. some of these years with Taker, it's been like, shit, I feel good, I'll do it,
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, he's closing out, an 80,000 seat stadium against Roman Reigns. But it's not like, as we sit here, and again, we're a few weeks from, when we're going to actually post this, so something could have changed. But as we sit here watching this, we don't know what he's going to do. And it just seems like he's one at a time. He's one match at a time. It's like the run where, he did the Extreme Rules with Roman Reigns and he did some of the Saudi Arabia stuff. And the one year he didn't show up at WrestleMania, but he showed up at the Raw the night before. Was that last year?
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I mean, the Cena thing kind of came together at the last minute. So it's been really interesting. And obviously we have no idea. I mean, he could wrestle another 5 years. He could not wrestle. He could get hurt. I mean, but it seems like it's just one at a time, and there is no exit strategy per se. Now, I think I've mentioned this on here before. The best idea I've ever heard in terms of fantasy booking is Taker winning the title and setting it down on the ground and calling it quits. What I'd love to see is him win the Rumble, him get a match, him win the match, him put the title down. And maybe ahead of time, he says, this is my last ride, win or lose, like I'm going out. So I don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. And we're all guessing at this point.
Is there like you have your scenario for like how he exits? Is there like, in my mind, there's no way the fans will be happy no matter what they do. Even myself, because I don't know what the expectation is. Like, how do you, 30 plus year career, who knows much more he's got in him, like how? I just don't see any way that the fans are
how they're going to be happy.
Yeah.
Well, look, to me, the idea of everyone needing to finish on their back, everyone needing to lose. Look, how many guys' career has The Undertaker made or greatly improved? Oh, I don't know. Edge, JBL, Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin. I mean, how many guys does this guy need to make a star? So I don't think he needs to win. Or I don't think he needs to lose in his final match. And your point about, it's just going to piss him off. Like, who's going to beat him to where you're like, all right, this guy's the flag bearer. This guy deserves the torch. This guy deserves the rub. I mean, maybe a heel and then you get some heat on him. Like, I think it worked with Corbin and Angle. I mean, as much as I wanted Angle to win that, and I think he should have, they've got a good year run out of Corbin on that. But I just, to me, it's like, I want The Undertaker to win. I want The Undertaker to be victorious. I want The Undertaker to pose in the middle of the ring. If he has the title, so fucking what? Make a tournament the following month and drive some network subscriptions with a tournament semifinal, right? Like, yeah. I just never understood that. So to me, I want to see him winning. I have no issue with it whatsoever. But look, I'm on the older side of the fan base. I'm always going to cheer on the good guys. I think Michael was better than Kobe and LeBron, right? So some of it's just generational, I'm sure, too. One thing I came across as I was, going through some episodes or issues of the Torch is, before the show, Keller said, WrestleMania would have been more successful if the two world title matches were promoted hard, but the stature of Shawn and Taker to the point that Triple H and Cena should have cut promos about Undertaker and Michaels match. It's the, biggest special match. Two title matches could have been on any pay-per-view. Taker Michaels should be last. But I agree with Jim Ross that it probably won't be. So both Jim Ross and Keller going into this show said this match should have been last. So this isn't like a 2020 hindsight. This is hey, this match should be last. That's what they said going in. Obviously, as we look back, of course the match should have been last. In some ways you wonder, okay, what if they would have put this match on last? Would it have not met expectations and maybe it shouldn't have been? Who the hell knows? But, look, it was obviously the best match on the card. It obviously was very, very difficult to follow. Fans were kind of burned out after this one in a good way. So just an interesting thing there, but he was absolutely right.
I think, you raise a good point, or kind of a good transition here for you. And we touched on a little bit, like, so is the stipulation, one, like, what are your thoughts on the stipulation? But then two, what stipulation and kind of when is it greater than the titles?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about this match, which obviously is revered as an all-time classic, there was no stipulation here.
Right.
It was, I'm the best performer in WrestleMania history. No, I am. And, we've got some heat and we're legends. So there really wasn't, any stipulation or anything at stake other than these two just in a match, which is hard to believe, right? There's no title, there's no Hell in the Cell, there's no retirement match or anything like that.
Yeah, and this is one of those where I'm looking through some different, like I say, true stipulation. Like it was career versus streak. That was the story.
The following year it was.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This one, yeah. So this one had nothing.
Yeah, this one had nothing. So I think that one of the would this match have benefited from that? Like if it was getting pushed at this point, like what are you?
I almost take the other view, which is I think if you put a stip on some of these matches, it takes away from them. So the following year when they did career versus streak, I didn't like it because I knew who was going to win.
Right.
Obviously, Shawn Michaels was losing, right? So I just really, unless it was a massive swerve, right? So I like the idea of, less is more sometimes, right? Like I don't do a stipulation for the sake of stipulation. Even like last year, Triple H Batista. Yeah, you knew it was probably his last match. So why make it a retirement thing? Then you just gave away the finish.
Yeah.
You didn't add anything to it. You didn't sell any more pay-per-views because Batista's career was on the line. All you did was say who the damn winner was going to be.
So looking at this year, and by the time this episode was coming out, we went out. Who is Undertaker fighting at WrestleMania this year if he's fighting?
I don't know if he's going to fight, but I think he might wrestle. I think he may sports entertain some people.
I gotcha.
So, God, I have zero idea. I know McIntyre was the word on the street for a while. At the time we're listening, or the time this airs, I don't even know if Fiend or Goldberg's champion, but I could see them doing, a Fiend Taker match if Goldberg has the title. But I don't know. No one really jumps out now that I'm dying to see Undertaker for somebody. But I'm one of these guys that I like seeing him in the ring. Him and Reigns tagging together, I loved it. It was awesome. I'll take this guy for as long as he can compete and not hurt himself. And it sucks that him and Goldberg had that unfortunate incident where the match didn't come out the way it should have, because that was good, on target to be a really good match, and they were on pace to have a great 10-minute kind of back and forth big move type match like Goldberg did with Lesnar. So I like seeing him, but
that's one of those two. And I think you raised an interesting point though, and almost to protect him a little bit. Do you make it a tag? Do you do a Brothers of Destruction type thing? And
I can't see the two of them wrestle one more time.
And that's what I wonder is they do that and kind of have that approach. So here we go.
Catch them at choke slam.
So Michael's up.
Dude, look, everybody's standing. They're going crazy, dude.
So yeah. Bad.
Kicked him.
Blocked the super kick, yeah. And then trying to get him in a figure four here.
Hell's Gate.
And then Hell's Gate, Taker and Hell's Gate. So
I hate that move.
Everyone is on their feet at this point, too. I do find it interesting. This is still and I've talked about this a lot over the years. It's still the era of the camera flash. And so you still have a lot of different cameras.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Cameras don't flash anymore.
And so those kind of moments you don't get anymore because cameras don't have it. And so it used to be you had to be ready for the shot when it came. And so, now, and he's still, throughout this match, a lot is happening. So we're about a third of the way through at this point. You and me being armchair kind of booking and kind of, sitting here discussing it. How much of the match do you think they did lay? And I couldn't find anything in my research. Twitter, let us know if it's out there. But how much of this do you think they laid out ahead of time?
It's probably in the middle, right? So I don't think they went out and called it in the ring per se. I also don't think that they, Randy Savage WrestleMania 3 wrote down every move that they're going to do.
Right.
So I think they had a general idea. They had worked together a bunch. They probably knew the big stuff happening. They probably walked around the ring, and it's probably in the middle. Would be my educated guess.
I think it's interesting too because some of the research I was finding was, and I don't know how much of this you saw. These two used to hate each other. Back in the 90s, there was a big point of that made.
Oh, of course.
Some of the articles, and egos in the 90s, I can only imagine if we had actually heard about it when it was happening. There was no internet or anything like that, so we didn't hear about that. But some of the backstage, just kind of And the quote.
Yeah, none of that stuff really exists anymore. I mean, you get some guys that maybe joust a little bit on Twitter, but I don't think the guys like absolutely can't stand each other. I mean, HBK was just a complete asshole. Like Taker was who he was, and here we go. He's climbing to the top of the rope. Taker's on the outside. I mean, God, these two. Shawn already looks like hell. He's exhausted.
It's interesting.
Looking exhausted. He's fine. He's going for the
step there. Yep.
He's going for the moonsault, and then Taker just brushes him away like a damn fly. He just did a moonsault off the top rope onto the floor. I mean, there's nothing to protect him. Jeez.
Yeah, you figure that Matt's only so much, but interesting quote I found about these two kind of hating each other was. This was Undertaker kind of coming back around. And he said, and this is more recent, but where Shawn and I are today and where we were back then on a personal level, it's taken a complete 360. And then the quote that they kind of shared was, if Shawn Michaels back then was on fire, I probably wouldn't piss on him to put him out. And so... But he also continued, but that being said, there is no one that I would rather be in the ring with than Shawn Michaels. I wonder, just
probably the easiest guy to work with.
And that's what I wonder is I say some of these true legends of the industry, like an Undertaker doing the sit-up right there as Michaels is still recovering on the outside. That I wonder, how much...
Here we go. You know what's coming now. Do you remember this?
Oh, of course I do. It's a classic Undertaker.
Goodness.
So
this is painful to watch. I still cringe when I see this. So Undertaker going for the dive outside. Oh! God, he lands right on his damn neck. Takes out the cameraman who I believe is Jimmy Snuka's son. He certainly didn't catch him. Oh my goodness.
So this was Undertaker did not get full rotation for those of you.
No, he got full rotation. Instead of
yeah.
being flat, he landed face first, neck first.
Yes.
He's lucky he didn't kill himself.
And so everyone now laid out, the ref, Michaels, Undertaker, the cameraman.
I mean, people are just... Oh, my God. Just brutal.
It's interesting, too, kind of watching this, and we see it a lot, and I kind of have to pay attention in the next pay-per-view. They're not showing replays. Have you noticed that?
So the replay thing, they're going to show this, but yeah, they show more replays now than they used to. So watch this. Oh God.
Yeah. You just hear it. So you see it more and more now, some of those images and GIFs that you can hear. That's one that you can hear. You just can't help but cringe. Yeah. So it's starting to recover a little bit here.
Totally off topic, but when NXT, I love that after every match they show replays of what happened. And they don't do it on the main roster as often.
Yeah.
Watch it. Every match on a card. So when I'm buzzing through an NXT special and I'm some of the undercard stuff, I try to catch the finish, and then right after the finish I watch that. So I do that on matches I don't actually watch the full thing of.
Yep.
So, yeah, spoiler alert, Jeff and I don't watch every minute of current product wrestling that's out there. I will say I fast forward through just about everything so I know what happened, but I can't promise I watch every single match in its entirety.
It's tough. I typically watch NXT every week because I can commit that time.
I mean, it's good.
Even there was a couple weeks ago at this point too, where you and I was like, hey, I was traveling. I was like, oh shit, what time's SmackDown on? And so I was able to kind of throw it on because I just wasn't really doing much else. And I even had my partner and I I'm slowly trying to get her into it, and so this is one especially kind of watching some of these kind of showing her these types of things, and she enjoys a lot of the women's stuff and kind of watching that, so that's always good too. But this is one, so we got Michaels back in the ring. Undertaker's still recovering from a broken neck at this point on the outside, and
so oftentimes people discuss hey, after so many dates it's appropriate to sleep with somebody or to take them out to a nice dinner
right.
or a first kiss. In your opinion, what's the appropriate number of dates prior to telling someone that you're a wrestling fan?
You and I joke about this because when I first started dating my partner, we were like, does she know yet that you're a wrestling fan?
Yeah, does she know your dirty, dark secret?
I think she's perfectly...
and if somebody heard that, they'd be like, oh, does he have a second family or is he married? Or
right,
no, just a mark. So when do you what do you think's appropriate?
For me, I think it just came up naturally. I think part of the benefit was,
okay, so how does it come up naturally?
part of it, because when we were talking about like hobbies and things that we would do, like about one of the conversations was like me doing this. And of course the conversation is like, what kind of wrestling? Or like WWF wrestling. That was Undertaker just rolled back in after barely beating the 10 count there. And so, yeah.
75-second 10 count.
Right, yeah, it really was. So, yeah, I think that one came up because when I would talk about the podcast and, like, you know, having different interests and not, like, being codependent on each other, and she really enjoyed that fact. And so, yeah, I would forget. I think it was probably less than a couple of months that it came up, but it definitely took a little bit longer for her to sit and watch a little bit. For me to just invite her over to watch something, that has not happened yet. It's been like she's come over, big choke slam from the Undertaker there. And so we're going for the quick pin, too.
First major pin.
Yeah, and we're about over almost 20 minutes in.
Boom, kicks out, place going nuts. Everyone's on their feet.
Yeah, and so that was what I think that she... I'm trying to slowly, you know, get her to watch it. I think she does enjoy the drama of it, like the... is Glow on Netflix going to talk about the soap opera-ness of it? Like it's enjoyable that way, and so
your policy is comes up when it comes up. It's not something that, you know, first date grabbing some sushi and you're like, look, I fucking love pro wrestling.
I don't think that's how it came up.
Okay.
It could have been one of those like 20 questions type thing, which is like, tell me something that, you know, nobody else knows about you.
When you said
like,
on your first date, she didn't know what your John Cena shirt meant, right?
Well, when she came over and saw the Hulk Hogan sheets, it kind of gave it away. You know? So, you know, when you get your Hogan and your Warrior buddies on the bed.
Boom, super kick, both guys out. My policy's slightly different. I avoid at all costs. You know, I finally met a girl that I wanted to marry, who's now my wife. So finally, I think Hulk Hogan came up or something, and I said, all right, you know what? At some point, I'm going to have to do this. And so... you know, it went over surprisingly well.
So that was
God knows what she told her friends, but
so that was he counted 3 there, but then is now marking 2, and the camera angle there definitely caught his hand hitting on 3. So that was interesting. Yeah, like I said, it's hard to find Hulk Hogan queen size sheets, but they are available if you work hard enough. So
I mean, they're going nuts, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're both down. Like this is it's just been fantastic.
So this one too, we're just at 20 minutes on this one too, a little bit over or under depending on where you're timing it. So we've still got a lot more to go. It's interesting too, like the two of these just really putting it all out there though. Like it's just so impressive, you know, and I think this is what you get, and this is the kind of stuff. So Taker grabbing him.
Yeah, there's just so many little intricate spots in this match that are just so fantastic like that, you know. Now he's going for the last ride. Got him up, sunset flip, Taker double choke, kicks him, going for it again.
He'll get it. And
I like that move, something different. Is this it? Place is going nuts, as you can hear for those of you watching it, going absolutely nuts. You know, this is great. This is the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. Do you know the only problem with that, Jeff? It's the 24th anniversary. This is a classic Vince McMahon-ism.
Oh, that's right.
So WrestleMania 25 would be the 24th anniversary. Hell, call it the 25th. So it's just so funny that, you know, there's a lot of times where Vince just kind of lives in an alternative universe and they just do things that don't really make sense, but...
Yeah, and we've seen that. We've always talked about the revisionist history of certain things and just kind of how Vince is. And so this is one. So at this point in the match, like this, it hasn't been a ton of, like, there's been some high flying, but not a ton. The pace is starting to slow a little bit here. Do you think, is it helping? Is it hurting? Is it
Taker's on the top rope, by the way. This guy's 6 foot whatever. He's on the top rope. Elbow drop, completely misses. God, that's awesome.
I mean, this was after he walked the ropes very early in the match, too. And so he kind of had that going for him. So,
what were you asking me?
So I was asking, like, the pace of the match. And just kind of like, you know, these guys, they're not... which do you prefer, I guess, is the better question of like, they started kind of hot. It slowed down a little bit.
I like a variety, right? That's what I think's fun. That so you'll hear me a lot on this show say, I like when they call it like a sport. I like when they present it like a sport. I like when Jesse Ventura's like, I don't understand why he didn't go for the cover right there. You got to wonder, as this match goes on, does it favor one guy because of their cardio? I love that stuff, right? Yep. I like losing myself in it where, again, when you do the spot festy stuff and you have like the Young Bucks gymnastics matches, it's tough to like see it like a sport, right? So that's when I really like, and here you go, Taker, got him in a tombstone, trying to get a tombstone. Boom, tombstone. There you go, that's it. 1, 2. That's that Taker shocked look meme that you've seen. People are shocked, right? I'm shocked. It's like, oh my God, is this guy going to win? Is Shawn Michaels actually going to win? Is this streak actually over? Unbelievable. Place going nuts. Every single person on their feet. It's really tough to have loud sound in buildings this big. That's loud. So...
match pace.
Yes, match pace. So I like when it's presented like a sport. So like, and I think this is something NXT does really well, where if you watch those big matches and you think of like the Gargano matches and the Ciampa matches and, some of these really good matches that they've had, right? Like Adam Cole stuff more recently, the Joes and the Nakamuras that have come through the system. Those matches, they're always different, right? Some of them, it's like the bell rings and they go after each other. Some of them, it's they feel each other out. I like different types of matches. So I don't have I like my shit fast-paced. Some of them I like where it does go out and starts with a brawl. Some of it I like when it's a stare down. And that's where, Hulk Hogan, not the greatest in-ring wrestler ever, but he's so good at the psychology of things. They know when to tie up. They know when to slow down. They know when to speed up. So... long-winded answer, but yeah, I like a variety of stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, and I know, and like you and I know I'm the New Japan watcher of the two of us, and you're the ECW guy more than me. I think that's one. Oh, what a freaking DDT there!
Tornado DDT.
Tornado DDT. I think that New Japan has always done a good job, and I've said this before. I don't listen with the English commentary. I listen with the Japanese commentary and because I think they do for me, it tells a better story if you have a 60-minute match or however long, like their Wrestle Kingdom, their Wrestlemania, for those of you that know. They're able to tell that story. And I think this match too, I don't think the pace, you don't need it to be super fast or flippy or anything. Like, if you tell the story in the ring, I think that's the important thing. And these two right now, like, even me sitting here right now, like, we know the finish and how this is going to go. But to those people there at the time, they had no idea. But for it's a big deal for someone to kick out of the tombstone. And so even at this point in his career, it didn't happen. And so we haven't seen the Sweet Chin music much, but he hits it. And so Michael's struggling. So it's planting that seed of the story. And he's taking him forever to climb the ropes right now. Michael's,
but you believe it. But you believe every second of it.
And so I think that's why it's so important, is to kind of tell that story. Slide back there a little bit, kind of catch him. So everyone is on their feet at this point. A huge elbow from Michaels, but too tired to make the pin. Almost, barely, can't get there. So it rolls the wrong way. So just really there's even some fans, if you notice, literally jaws dropped, kind of trying to figure out what's going to happen next. So Michaels, we're going to tune the band. Here we go. So. Just really interesting how, if they can tell the story right, that's what I want. I don't need, some spot fat. And this too, like we've talked about in previous episodes, you don't know what's coming next. If there was table set up or ladder set up or, something happening like that, you're just waiting for them to use it for a spot.
I hate that,
I know you hate
stomping. I hate that. I hate the 1, 2, 3 countdown on moves. Hate it. But, he hit the cleanest super kick you're ever going to see. Maybe not the cleanest, one of them.
There we go.
This is it. It's over. Dude,
what a pop.
Unbelievable. You thought he had him right there.
I still remember the saddest day when I realized that more times than not, the super kick sound comes from the slapping of the leg, which, sorry to pull back the curtain on that one, but sometimes, boy, they catch it clean. He caught that one clean. And especially to hear it as well as you did in that arena with everything that was happening, like, yeah.
So the night before this, Austin goes into the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Does it bother you that we've never gotten another Steve Austin match? Like, I understand him retiring early, but would you have liked to have seen him against Lesnar, or CM Punk comes to mind? Have you ever thought about that? And what would you think if we got Punk Austin at WrestleMania?
Especially now that you say that, he has very much more than a lot of these other kind of like legends. He has just never felt the need to come back.
Shawn came back.
Yeah, Taker
still hasn't retired.
Like
Edge came back.
Goldberg, like
Punk will wrestle again, I'm sure. Goldberg's come back. Foley came back. Flair came back.
In our lifetime, we will see
Batista came back.
CM Punk will wrestle before Ric Flair retires again. So, yeah, I think, but it's been interesting because he's done a few spots. He's done some stunners here and there.
Yeah, and I don't know physically if he could do it and stuff, but man, I'd love to see it, dude. I just really would.
Dude's still jacked as hell.
I know, and he still looks good when he comes back. And he was a brawler, so it's like you put him in with the right guy. I mean, dude, even like when him and AJ Styles had that stare down.
Well, and that's like, I wonder, like, you know, and it's me just spitballing, like, you know, because you, like, again, you just asked me this. I wonder, do you do like a Vince McMahon Stone Cold Survivor Series, kind of play those angles? Like, you know, I don't want Vince and the Authority back in any way, but just like that meaning it'll probably happen. But like, is that maybe a route you go that he takes on like some of this like manager type role? I think he's perfectly happy living on the ranch too.
Correct.
And so, you know, and he's got a good gig with his own podcast as well too. And so
I'd love to. The point is, I'd love to see him wrestle again.
Yeah, and I would too. Absolutely. And I think that's just one of those where I don't think we will, but credit to him, he's avoided, you know, coming back in the itch compared to, you know, some of these other people, like, hell yeah, Daniel Bryan, like, couldn't stay away.
Yeah,
for some of them, like, you know, I think we will eventually one day, it might be years from now, see Paige back in the ring too. But
I agree. So,
yeah.
Interestingly enough, I mean, you know, everything just means so much in this match because the psychology's so good. But to your point, you know, I mean, there's been some bigger spots, but, you know, it's not like a bunch of tables been broken or ladders and stuff. And, I mean, it's just, it's pretty wild, man. Pretty damn good match. All right, so going for the moonsault. Uh-oh. Caught him into his tombstone. That's it. 1, 2, 3. Taker collapses. My initial thought as I watched it live and what I said to my buddy I was with, that was the best match of all time.
Yeah.
I said it in the moment. I mean, I just said that was the best professional wrestling match, certainly that I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah. So this is one, you know, obviously both men just laid out in the ring, the crowd just going absolutely crazy. You know, it's just one of those, like, it is that iconic moment. It's what the fans wanted, showing the 17-0 signs in the crowd as well, too. Undertaker selling well is the first to get up, which makes sense because he won the match, and Michael's still just kind of laying out. So, really good stuff here.
Dude, I mean, you've heard me say this before, and I came across it as I was doing my research for this. You know, what did Keller say? He's like, look, Michaels has now had his opponent's best matches with at least 7 top-level opponents.
Yep.
Taker, Flair, Triple H, Chris Benoit, Kurt Angle, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. Yep. 4-star matches with Hart, Jericho, and Cena. 3.5-star match with Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Tatanka's probably best match of his career. Really good singles match against Tito Santana. Good match with the Rockers. But dude, he's like, and he said the only quote unquote disappointing matches were Chris Jericho and John Cena. Cena, I agree with. Just the storyline in the match wasn't that great. Jericho, I thought that stole the show from what I remember, but that might be a fun one to go back for. You know, the Iron Man match, I'm on the side of really enjoying that, but again, some people did not like it. The only thing I didn't like about the Iron Man match, I thought the finish sucked. Otherwise, I thought it was a really good match. probably could have used 3 or 4 falls as opposed to the way they booked it, but I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you want to get into the aftermath here, take a quick break, and then get right into it?
Yeah, let's jump into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
Okay, so what we got in the aftermath here. So, of course, as we were discussing, you've got The Undertaker winning 17-0. Just throughout the match, fans back and forth, not really sure, but everybody chanting, going after both of them. Just really enjoying this. Getting some "This is awesome" chants, too, coming out throughout this. And so, just some different notes on here was the match of the year, the 2009 Slammy Awards, which was on Raw. It was also the match of the year for Pro Wrestling Illustrated and the Wrestling Observer newsletter. And so, super high marks for this one, just all around, and just kind of what it was and kind of what it did. Both these guys immediately after this match, though, took a little break, a little hiatus. I'm sure it was to recover. I'm sure it was, nagging injuries and things like that kind of going away a little bit. Shawn eventually did come back to reform Degeneration X, did a lot with that. And then Undertaker as well eventually came back, attacked CM Punk. And so some interesting kind of storylines happening there. These two, of course, had some more run-ins, of course, over the course, next few years, really, and year, getting the streak versus career match, which, of course, bringing an end to Michael's career, which we'll talk about that one a little bit later. So,
kind of putting an end to his career.
Kind of, yeah, relative. Wrestling put an end to his career. So just interesting. And so one, though, that we, kind of talked about the write-ups a little bit here. There was just a lot, kind of how they all felt about this one. And so it was the Observer newsletter. And this was, it's just odd here. And so everyone wants a star rating, and this is going to seem like a cop-out, but I am reserving final judgment until I see the DVD. Like, when this was over, I thought 4 3/4, so that is what I would give it here. But
this is Keller or Meltzer?
Meltzer.
What do you mean you have to see the DVD? That's the stupidest. Was he there?
So I will watch.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. What do you mean you have to see the DVD? You watch a match, you give it a ranking. I mean, if you're there, it's probably a slightly better perspective. I mean, maybe you want to, but what the hell's the damn difference?
And it's even said, it's my newsletter, goddammit. Either way, it's a 1/4 star and it's one man's opinion. So let's all just move on with our lives and agree that it does not get much better than this. Which, kind of a dick way to put it.
Well, I don't understand this. So he says, I thought 4 3/4, so that's what I'm going to give it. But I'll watch the match on Blu-ray when it comes out, and I reserve the.
Yeah,
I don't understand that at all. Like, just have an opinion and move on. Like, it is what it is. Maybe you think about it, but how do you? Oh, I need to see the footage again. I mean, it's a pro wrestling match.
But then Wade Keller being a little bit more definitive here with the 5 stars. 5 stars goes without say. Michaels did it 2 years in a row. 2 5-star matches, 2 years in a row. Those matches are created from 2 decades of experience, 2 decades of history that is built up well into this type of climax, and a lot of Michael's planning ahead and excellent execution between the rows.
So I guess he gave Flair Shawn 5 stars too, which I'm surprised by. I didn't realize he did that. I mean, it was a great match, and we'll definitely cover it at some point.
So Michaels just leapfrogged whoever was above him on anyone else's list of the greatest ever, if anyone had him outside of their top 2 or 3.
Best in-ring worker of all time, not disputable.
So, Tom, I will let you go first then with your score. I got a feeling it's going to be fairly high on this one. 2 weeks in a row, maybe? Are we going to get double digits? We'll see what happens. So, what do you got?
You think I may be giving this a 10, is that correct?
I think it's at least a 9.
Dude. And hey, by the way, our payoff score is 1 to 10. We're not going to do this douchebag stuff of, I'm giving it a 5 2/4 star because it was at the Tokyo Dome, and 5 3/4 star. That's the stupidest, goofiest thing I've ever heard. It lends no credibility to it. So we're always going to take 1 to 10, even if 1 10's better than another 10 or whatever the case is. This match, this build, the entrances, the match, the crowd, the finish, it's perfect. Okay? This is the perfect pro wrestling match. The story, the characters, everything they've been through, the facial reactions, the crowd, just the visuals. I mean, just everything about this is perfect. This is as perfect as pro wrestling gets, and it was an absolute honor to have been there to see it live. And I probably will never see a better match the rest of my life with all those things being considered. So this is absolutely a 10, and it's as perfect as professional wrestling gets. End of story.
I think we may have a first, my friend. And so whether I'm in a good mood or just doling them out lately this way, that I think this is our first ever double 10s. And so I agree with you. I just think, if I were to ding it anywhere, it would be the build, but I can't. And so, it wasn't great, but at the same time, the match was far better than anything we could have hoped for. The pacing, just everything, you can't overlook it. And
so here's what's interesting, right? Is there's two ways to look at the build. Because when you said that, I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with you. But here's the thing: is the build the TV leading up to it, or is the build these guys both came through the WWF in the 90s?
Yeah. They
had great matches, including the first Hell in the Cell. They're the two best performers in the history of WrestleMania. It's like saying, that if, Brady and Manning faced off in the Super Bowl, is the build that season, or would the build be their entire career? So in totality, and they played up on this in the build in terms of the vignette they played prior to the match. The build is everything, and so for that, it's perfect as well.
Yeah, and I think and you and I, we dub the build. We don't have on this date is when it started, or on this date is when you have to go by. You and I, we take some liberties in what we feel it should be and shouldn't be included. But for this one, it didn't need a lot. It could have just challenged him, and that was that. And so, and coming out of this match, we didn't know that there was going to be another one in a year, and so. There's something to be said for that too. Of this match itself was a build for something else, and so with that, I think it's just one of those where you got to look at the totality of it, but then at the same time you got to be respectful of what it was in its moment and just how everything played out, because it's really unbeatable, plain and simple. So
it's a good way to put it.
Final thoughts, buddy?
Man, again, I just loved it.
Yep.
Thought it was a great match. Thought it was perfection. It was great being there for it. I instantly in that moment thought it was as good of a match as I'd ever seen, and maybe in the history of professional wrestling, and certainly at WrestleMania. I did not need to get the Blu-ray DVD to confirm that.
We just needed the network, but we knew it anyways.
What a nerd.
Yeah. So.
All right. No, loved it. Great episode. Close us out, my man.
Yeah, good stuff. As always, you got both competitors. We try and always share, at Shawn Michaels and at Undertaker for the two of them on Twitter. Make sure to check them out. It just feels weird saying that Undertaker has a Twitter, but he does. So there you go. So make sure to check that out. As always, subscribe to the show if you aren't already. Give us those 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Make sure to spread the word to your friends, family, anyone you love, all that good stuff. And so love doing what we do. Love being out here and talking wrestling, being on the road. And so, Tom, another step on the road to getting closer to take us home for this one.
We are not your boy toy, so rest in peace. And thank you for joining us on another episode of The Payoff.